Welcome to Facts on the Ground. I'm Jesse Zerwell, and I'm here with my co-host, Misty Winston. And today we are very pleased to welcome back to the show Shareef Snuggs. He's a national activist and organizer for the March for Medicare for All. And as I said, we're very pleased to have him back. So Shareef, thanks for joining us again.
Oh no, guys, thank you. This has been an amazing ride. I really enjoy working with you guys.
I'm really excited to be here this time because the last time you were on, it was just Jesse. I had something else going. It might have been the first week of Bitch or something. I don't remember.
Yeah, it was actually.
Yeah, so I couldn't be here and I was bummed about it. So yeah, I'm happy to be here and be able to talk to you. I mean, we've talked before, but I'm happy to be able to have you on the show.
Right.
So March for Medicare for All was awesome.
Yeah.
I think that it was super successful. I mean, and that's despite all of the bullshit, which there was plenty of. But yeah, how are you feeling post March? Like what, where are you sitting at right now that you've had time to like digest everything and kind of take it all in? How are you feeling about everything?
Yeah, no, I've been over the moon about it. I I know a lot of people have their own opinions, but I feel that if you have like 100+ people at every single March, I think that's success, in my opinion. I mean, LA had like close to like 400 or 500 people. DC, we had like 600 people. Every March, we're still learning. We're still collecting information, like how many people were there. I know I was there, like literally doing a head count. And I was like almost lost count because there was so many people. I was very surprised to some degree because I didn't think that it was going to be as big as it was. They were like, okay, we're doing really good online. We're doing a lot of outreach. We're talking to people, but I was like, all right, I don't know if like everyone's going to show up. And people showed up in DC. It was like really amazing. And it just speaks to the need. Like people just really feel like their voices are not being heard, and showing up means that, okay, maybe I'll have a chance to actually talk to someone and help me. Because I actually, one of the things I was doing, I was actually talking to people who were there, and they was just telling me their healthcare story or talking about, you know, why this means so much to them. And I think that these marches and these rallies, I think people don't realize they're more of a therapy session for people because people don't have anyone to talk to. So going in and talking to a fellow comrade about their healthcare story and like why this is important to them and like getting out there means something to them. It may not mean something to someone else, but having someone to talk to. I don't know how many times that people out there in their own community just talk to someone about their healthcare story, which is important.
Well, and that's just a huge part of activism. That's what was so baffling to me when people were like, a lot of people say, oh, well, marches don't matter. I don't think marches don't. Yes, they do. It gets people together. It gets people organized and networking and making connections and building relationships. And that's part of it.
It also shows who's serious because another thing too, like a lot of people was like, you know, in the beginning was shitting on us and then didn't think that, you know, we were serious about activism and organizing, and they just thought like we're just talking. But then now people actually know. Now the messaging is different now. Now they're not saying that we're not, you know, we're BS activists. Now we're like, we're activists, but, you know, we're stealing money now. Like now we're like grifters or whatever the case may be. Whatever the other things people say about us now is different.
Yeah.
Because before they were saying that we wasn't serious. Now we know we're serious because we're out there, we're in the street. So people have different opinions, which is fine. But yes, you're really right. Like you need being on the ground builds an army. You need those comrades. You need people to know that, you know, you guys are serious. So, and then that also builds sense of community. And then people want to come back, and people have been asking like, what are you guys doing? What are you guys up to? What's going on? So.
Yeah. And I think that that's important.
Can you talk about, and not to get bogged down in it too much, but some of the pushback, some of the more serious pushback that you got?
This is going to turn into a mini bitch.
both leading up to the march and afterward, because I would see on Twitter leading up to the march, like all sorts of people coming out of the woodwork and having one problem or another with it, and there never seemed to be any legitimate criticism. I don't see in general how you could have a legitimate criticism against Medicare for All, but what was some of the more serious pushback you received, and what were people saying to justify that?
There was 3 major criticisms. One was people knew me personally, knew that I had issues with like politicians speaking at the march, so I was completely against that. So that's one. The second one was why didn't let Cori Bush speak at the march. And thirdly was the fact that why we're not endorsing or pushing or helping in turn to get elected. So those are the three things that I know people like person reached out to me and said, why is like, you know, Nina Turner's an ally. You need to like work with her. You need to help her get elected. You guys are not serious because Nina Turner, you need to help her get elected. It's like, you're not going to get Medicare for all if you don't have allies in, you know, in Congress. You need to get her there. So that's one. And I was like, I disagree with that. I disagree with electoral politics altogether. Like, I don't agree that AOC or having AOC versus Joe Crowley is make a difference. Like, because none of these people are going to fight for you unless they're pushed to do so. Like, so I don't care how nice you think they are or what you like about this person. You know, they have a job, right? So they're gonna put their job first. And so at the end of the day, you need to push them. You need to force them to do what you want them to do. So I'm against electoral politics. Not because I don't think that there isn't a chance to a good person being in power. Sure, I'm not going to discount that.
It's possible. It's highly unlikely.
It's highly unlikely, right? It's possible. It's highly unlikely. However, no one's going to lose their job for you. Okay, this is not going to happen. They have a job to do. So at the end of the day, they got to pay their bills. They're going to keep their cushy seat. And so in order for you to get them to do what you want them to do, you got to make them feel like I'm going to lose my job.
Public pressure.
Absolutely. 100%. 100%. You got to put them in a situation where, shit, I better go do something. I better get these people Medicare for all right now because my job is over. And if they don't feel that way, fuck you. They're not going to care. I don't care. And so people need to realize that. People don't. So that's the conversation I always have with people. So I just tell them that if you have a better strategy than I can think of, I'm ready to listen, but I doubt it.
Right. That's the thing that pissed me off the most, is that a lot of people had a lot of criticisms, which, listen, you are absolutely entitled to criticize every movement. You're allowed to criticize Action for Assange. You're allowed to and you should, you should side eye every activist group. You should be worried about people being legitimate grifters. That's a thing that happens. It's a legitimate thing. But not every group is going to be like that. And if you start to get yourself in that mindset, you're done. You've lost before you've even started. You're never going to fight for anything. But these people pretend this isn't like a legitimate action or whatever. And there are a lot of people who believe in electoral politics and thinks that that's the best method. And that's fine. You do your thing. I 100% disagree with you. I 100% disagree with you, but I'm not going to begrudge you your efforts. As long as you're doing something, great. But none of these people that criticize anything, what have they? I haven't seen a single person. I haven't seen a single one of those people do anything other than yell at me for being mad at the squad and for, being harsh on the squad, or yelling at you for not wanting to have politicians at the march. And we probably have very similar feelings on that, because I vacillate, because there are a lot of people who are running for office that I like. For example, tonight on Bitch, Christina Livio is going to be on. She's running in Florida. I like her. And Shahid Buttar, I like him. I think he's fascinating. I like talking to him. He's and Christine too. They're activists. They're activists who are trying the electoral politics route, which I'm not going to fault them for. I don't think it's worthwhile, but that's cool. So I vacillate between, do I even bother with politicians or whatever? But, so I don't have a problem with you. Right. It's not like you unilaterally ban politicians, but yes, it just pisses me off that these people aren't sorry, I'm on a rant.
Well, there's also a fine line between inviting them to speak and then carrying water for their campaigns. Mm-hmm. And specifically Cori Bush, if you watch the interview Max Blumenthal tried to have with her outside the Capitol, she said essentially that she's not really concerned about Medicare for all, that's Bernie Sanders' pet project, and she's focusing on the eviction moratorium. So it's, the people who push you to have these people speak and then criticize you when you don't, aside from not wanting to carry water for them, it seems to me that it would be disingenuous to have them speak in support for Medicare for all, because it seems like they don't really support it. They don't care, unless it's opportunistic for them to do so, advantageous. But even then, genuinely, they don't care. They are not interested in getting it passed.
And actually fighting.
Right. Full disclosure. So Nick Brana, he was at the DC March, and he and I had a discussion about it. He said, "So Shareef, he was concerned. He was like, okay, so what's up with this? You're gonna let her talk?" I was like, no. I was like, Nick, I was like, We spent $7,000 on this DC march, right? Not to mention how much money that I spent organizing and getting to DC, and how much money that everyone else spent to get DC. So you're telling me that Cori Bush is worth over $8,000 for me to talk to her for 15 minutes. Think about that.
After she ignored you the
Right.
whole time leading up to it.
He thought about it, and he thought about it. He said, you know what? You're right. We spent over $8,000 for this march. And so you're telling me that to get a phone call or get a conversation with Cori Bush, I got to spend a lot of money. Because before that, she wasn't responding. She can lie and say no one reached out to her. That's fine. It's not true. Maybe her people didn't.
Is she saying that?
She did say no one reached out to her. All of them are saying that. And that's fine. They can say that. I'm not going to argue with them, but I'm going to let them know that that's not true. So whether there's a miscommunication on team's end, that's not true. So we reached out to everybody.
That's not true. That's not true.
We reached out to everybody. So yeah, we reached out to everybody.
Yeah, that's really unfortunate that she's saying that. I didn't know she was saying that, or that she had said that she didn't.
Right.
See, and that's when, because I saw a lot of people who were mad that you guys didn't let Cori Bush speak. And I was like, why the fuck would they let her speak? They've been trying to get her attention, all of their attention, and get them to come to these rallies. And I know that you guys reach out to her because I helped. Like and a lot of people did. Like a lot of people. Like if you were on Twitter at any point in the months leading up to the marches, everybody on Twitter was reaching out to these people trying to get them, because this is their issue. This is what they ran on. It should have been a no-brainer. And
I know for a fact they know what's going on Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to get into the nuance of that, but I know they know. I know they know. And so for her or anyone from the squad to pretend that they don't pay attention to what's going on Twitter and they don't know that people reach out to them, it's not true. Like if you have people running your Twitter account, sure, I believe that. But again, don't pretend like that's not something that, that's not something that you don't know aware of.
They tweet all the time. And you can argue that it's a staffer, but even if it's a staffer, then they see it and then they can relay the message. So don't try to pretend like that's not a thing that you guys were ever aware of. Like that's not a thing that's real.
I don't think AOC has a staffer who tweets for her, because if you look at her tweets, they're written by somebody who would have her maturity level. Like
there are a lot of those people though, and I'm sure that she surrounded herself with others like her.
Right.
Yeah, it just seems like she wouldn't. I mean, if she has any shred of professionalism about her, that she wouldn't approve of a tweet like that unless she wrote it herself. But I don't know. But yeah, the point is they're always on Twitter and they know what's going on, and they willfully choose to ignore it or not participate.
Everybody praises her all the time about how she's so social media savvy. And then they're going to try to pretend like they didn't see what was going on Twitter. That's not a thing that's real. Cause I've seen people try to pretend that, well, they just didn't see it. You didn't call their office or whatever. And I'm sure that some of y'all did call their offices, but
we reached out to Nina Turner, we reached out to Jamila Jayapal, we reached out to Bernie Sanders, we reached out to Cori Bush. So we reached out to everyone. We know that if they didn't respond, but like we still reached out to them. So they can't say I didn't get it, and you can't say we did a bad job of reaching out to them. Like you can check your messages. That's part of the problem. That's why we're doing the march in the first place, because you don't read your messages.
Right.
That's absolutely absurd. Really funny.
It is absurd, and it makes me angry. It really does. And then they wanted you to let her speak. Y'all, these people aren't your friends, and I have no patience for that shit, because this isn't a game. This isn't a fucking game. This isn't like, oh, let's get Cori Bush some political points while she comes and talks to the Medicare for All march that she's ignored for the past several months. This is people's lives, like life and death. This is bankruptcy. This isn't a fucking game, and they act like it's like this political football. It's fucking healthcare. Like this, it's so mind-boggling to me how easily progressives are willing to it's fucking healthcare. People are dying, literally dying right now.
We have a lot of people in our coalition that don't have time left. They don't have too much time left to live. They just don't. I'm not saying that to like earn points or like make people feel sympathetic or whatever, but a lot of people in this movement who's doing a lot of work, they want to feel like their life meant something. And it's heartbreaking to like talk to some of these people, be on Zoom meetings with some of these people, because I know that I'm not going to see them probably like next year or a couple of months down the line. And Yeah, it's not a game, you know.
And we
And
shouldn't
so,
even
yeah,
have to fight for this.
right.
It's
Right.
the year 2021 in the United States of America during a global pandemic, and we have to
Right.
have marches for healthcare.
Right.
That shouldn't be a thing.
No, not at all. Not at
Yeah,
all.
and it's even more absurd that there are people against it. Like, again, I
Right.
can't emphasize enough the just lack of rationality and humanity you must have to be against something like that. I don't quite understand that. I mean, I understand it from a political point of view and a careerist point of view, but you have to be some degree of a sociopath to stand against this. And
I agree.
you know, as far as the politicians go, again, we wouldn't need marches like this if the politicians were doing their job with regard to Medicare for all and fighting to get it passed. So why incorporate the enemy, so to speak, into a march that's happening because the enemy is they're not doing what they're supposed to do.
Right.
But it's
Well,
so
people-
much, it's easier to attack the messenger and
Mhm.
something that you're not involved in, you're not working on, than it is to take an honest look at it.
Well, we have to get people to believe that those people aren't the enemy. You know what I mean? People don't think that the squad are the enemy, or they don't think Bernie Sanders are the enemy, or Nina Turner, or whoever is the enemy. That's the problem. You know, they feel that they're allies, but they're allies that we need to every now and then tug and pull into a certain position. And I feel like an ally or a comrade is not someone you need to push.
Yes.
They already know they have to do it. You know what I mean? Like, if I have to push you, you're not an ally. Full stop. I shouldn't have to beg you or call you or do a march or do a rally or do a sit-in just to get you to believe whatever I'm fighting for. Like, you should already know.
They ran on it.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Exactly.
They launched their careers on Medicare for all.
And
Right.
then
AOC was bring the ruckus. We're going to bring the ruckus. Where the
Ruckus,
fuck
right.
is the ruckus?
Okay, yeah,
Seriously,
exactly.
they should. Sorry, I get fired up about this because it really pisses me off. Because again, people are dying. But she talks about how she's going to bring the ruckus, and we're going to go in there. We're going to fight the Democratic establishment. We're going to reform the party. We're going to make it a party of the people again. Where the fuck? When does that happen? Because did I miss that? Because that didn't happen. They haven't even tried. They should, you should have gone in, and their first order of business should have been to flip fucking tables, all of them, flip them all, call everybody out, put everybody on blast, organize the people, rally the people. I mean, AOC has millions of followers on social media. She could have a massive, the thing on the Capitol steps. Don't even start with me. They didn't push that. They didn't organize that. It was a last minute
just
PR
random.
stunt. Yes.
That was a PR stunt. That was random. That was a giant publicity stunt. And I tell people that, people was like, Shareef, you're so mean. You're so heartless. I'm like, I'm not. If she was really serious about that, first of all, that could have been organized. That should have been done
months ago.
Months ago. We all knew that was happening. Let's not pretend like we didn't know that a eviction moratorium wasn't happening. We knew the clock. Everyone knew the clock. Like, average person on the street knew the clock. Like, you serious? Let's come on. Let's use our common sense here for once. They
should have done it months ago, and they should have organized it. They could have planned it and promoted it, and millions of people would have showed up.
Full disclosure, I was going for months. I had to speak to the Capitol Police. I had to speak to the DC Police. I had to speak to the Metropolitan Police. I had to speak to the Supreme Court Police. I had to do so much paperwork leading up months to the march. These people get to do. I got so much pushback from all these police institutions about can't have a march in the Capitol, can't have a march in the Capitol, can't have a march within the Capitol. They was fighting me. I was like, this is authoritarian. This goes against my right of free speech. This is not right. First of all, we don't even want to be near the Capitol. First of all, we don't want to be at the Capitol. We just want to be around the area. You can be there if you want. I don't give a shit. But send as many police units you want. This is a peaceful march. We have a lot of people with a lot of preconditions. Like, no one's gonna do anything stupid. Your congressperson can sit on the steps overnight at the Capitol, but I can't even be 20 feet away from the Capitol. Think about that.
There's still fences surrounding the thing.
That's a problem. That's a problem.
Yeah.
That's a problem.
Yeah. There was people that tried to continue the eviction moratorium protests, and they kicked him out. They're like, you can't be here. And it's very clear that, and it was such an obvious PR stunt. That's what made me the most angry. It was such an obvious, I mean, shameless, just absolutely shameless.
Extremely shameless. I don't care. there is no amount of like way to get around that. Like, if you really considered about these people losing their homes, your number one priority months ago should have been like, let's get these people help. There's a last minute ditch effort. And I know a lot of people are saying that, oh, like AOC was waiting for the court decision, stuff like that. That's bullshit. That's just stop. Every time she says something, people just like, okay, I can go back to brunch now. It's totally over. She's right. Leave her alone. Give her help. You know, it's so stupid.
You don't have to wait for a court decision to understand that this is a thing that's going to happen. And even if the court decides, you know, to extend it or whatever, why are they not fighting for cancel the rent? Why is that? They went in like their protest. They went in and like the only thing they were asking for was an extension.
Right. What happened to people? What happened to people like when it censors up? Because if people can't afford their rent, like, and here's why I said that people don't think and pay attention. Because when I got to DC, the one thing that kind of stood out to my mind was all like these homeless tents that's in DC.
Mm-hmm.
It's atrocious. Like, there's so many like hot spots, to these little tent hot spots where all these homeless people are living, and they keep being shuffled by the Metropolitan Police.
Mm-hmm.
And so they have to move over here, they move over here, move over here. And keep in mind, I was only there for like 3 days, and I'm taking my Uber to get to and further from the march, and I'm literally seeing this, and this is gross. I was like, why is people okay with this? These are the people who are being evicted. These are not like old homeless people that are like been homeless for years. These are newly evicted people. Wrap your head around this. These are people who just lost their home, and more people. And these are why these tents are growing, because more people are losing their homes. It's not like these are homeless people from other areas or whatever. Like, this is the problem, and no one's addressing this. This is the issue that we're having.
The growth of the tent cities, if you want to call them that, it's been amazing just personally seeing it, because I remember being out in LA like 4 or 5 years ago, and almost under every overpass there was some sort of tent city of homeless people. And now where I live in Jersey, which is pretty close to New York, there's the town of Paterson, or the city of Paterson, which you both probably heard of. But the highways that run through there, the overpasses there, are filled now with tents and people living underneath. And what's even more cruel, if that wasn't cruel enough, is that there was one section that was like pretty heavily inhabited, and overnight those people were moved, and the ground was changed to this almost like raised bricks, so that you couldn't, like, there was no way you were going to sleep comfortably on that ground. Not that sleeping on concrete is comfortable in any way, but they purposely made it like that. You know, like the things you see to keep pigeons off of whatever, it was like that, but they put it on the ground with cement so people could not go back there. And, you know, it's not like they moved those people into affordable housing. They just booted them, and now they're somewhere else.
No, and that's what's happening in DC, and New York is going to New York is going through the same thing. Like, I live in New York, and it's going through the same problem. And now near my son's school in Brooklyn, in Crown Heights, there's like these boxes that they're putting food in, so homeless people can eat or whatever. And I know some people are like saying that, oh, like, this is COVID and blah blah blah. I was like, no, this has nothing to do with COVID.
If like, it does, then we should still be fixing that problem.
Right. Let's stop using COVID as a reason. It's capitalism. Like, full stop. Like, this is the reason why this is happening. Like, this like, COVID is not the reason why we have homeless people in the street and why people don't. This is. I mean, we didn't have COVID, it still would be a problem. It's just COVID was just making it grow faster. That's all it is. Just all it's doing.
It just accelerated it. That's all that it did. That's all that it did.
And the fact that people are comfortable and not outraged about the fact that we have to, like, communities have to, like, give food to homeless people, it's not a good thing. I mean, great, it's a good thing that we're helping them, sure, but like,
we shouldn't have to.
That shouldn't have to. It shouldn't be a system. We shouldn't have a system in place for that. That's the problem.
It's insane. It is, honestly, it's insane to me that and I know that I say this all the time, but it's the year 2021 in the United States of America, and we can't figure out how to, like, give people homes and just make sure that a basic standard of living, like, if everybody's basic needs are met, it helps everybody, literally all of us. Like there's not a single human being on planet Earth that isn't positively impacted by the fact that everybody has a decent standard of living, like just a decent basic standard of living. And it's insane to me that we have to fight for this shit. It is bizarre. Like, why would you not want to take care of your people? I mean, we just ended the war in Afghanistan. We spent over $2 trillion and we got nothing for it. Why are we not spending that money to make sure that people in this country have a place to live and have food and are able to go to work and that are, it doesn't make, it's completely irrational, and grown ass adults are like functioning.
But not within the context of capitalism. It makes perfect sense because there's no money to be made off of providing free healthcare for everybody.
Right. And that's why we need, when people say we have to get the money out of politics, that's what that is. Right, we have to create a system. We have to create a sense of community that says that I'm okay with not making money on someone having a home, someone can eat, someone can have healthcare. That's what that is. And if that's radical to you or that's ludicrous, then we have a problem. You're not a human being. You're inhumane. And I'm not going to go there.
You're right, though. It doesn't make any sense. Anybody that has any sense of humanity. Right. I don't want people to live on the streets. Anybody, even like my worst enemy, I don't want them living on the streets. I don't want that to be like a real thing that exists in humanity. That's not humane. And that it's weird to me that we have to have like an argument about that. To me, that's just basic common sense, like just common decency. I don't want children to starve.
I think that it's largely a cultural thing. And I know a lot of people may disagree with me, but I think it's a larger cultural thing, because I think that we as a society believe that you put yourself in that situation. People really believe that. Like we have more than enough. I'll give you a perfect example. My aunt, Jessie, is one of these people that you can't afford your healthcare, that's your fault. She's privileged. I'm gonna throw it out there. She really is. She's a boomer, not to make fun of all the boomers, but she's one of these people that she has her money, she has her house, she has her health care, she has everything she needs. And so in her mind, right, America was good to me. I worked hard, I was able to get it. Why can't you? And I'm Black. You know what I mean? So like in her mind, that you didn't work hard enough. And if you don't have something, it's because either you're lazy or you need to go out there and get a better job. And she doesn't realize the world is different than when she grew up. Okay. My aunt is like she's over 65 years old, you know what I mean? Like pushing 70. And so you're never going to change her mind. She's one of those old, she's just stuck. And because she can afford things and the cost of living is not hurting her pocket, she was like, oh, well, you must be doing something wrong. It's not the system, it's you. Get out there and do something about it, And so you have too many people like that. That's the problem. They don't understand that $15 minimum wage it's an insult. It's an insult. It's not going to get you anywhere. Yeah. Right. So, that's the problem.
It is. And I think that you're right. And I think it's because for a lot of those people, when they came up, like you said, it was different. Like you could buy a house and a car and send your kid to college on, like a single income, or, there were decent paying jobs like that. It wasn't it. And now it's completely different. And it's really weird to me that, because these are otherwise intelligent human beings, it's weird to me that they cannot see. I mean, do they think that things just stay stagnant and that we're in the same exact system? Because that's not how it works.
Yes,
and since that time, well, that's unfortunate, because they're really, I mean, most of these people are smart. Like they are, they're able to like comprehend things that are happening around them. But it's impossible for me to not, you can just look at the way things are and the way that corporations have, seized more and more power and control, and the way that, tax break after tax break, the CARES Act, like money has been shoveled to and they can't give it away fast enough to the 1%, while they're, the rest of us are suffering. And to me, that's such an obvious thing. It's happening in broad daylight. It's weird to me that people are incapable of figuring that out, of like taking that in.
I think a lot of them choose to do that. And just like the politicians who choose to willfully ignore Medicare for all, even though they ran on it. And Shareef, you mentioned Crown Heights, which is, I'm not sure what it's like now, but when I was living in New York, the gentrification there was very rapid. And it's the same in all these coastal cities where the neoliberal elites sort of gather and live, and they just want their comfort. They don't want to have to think about the person or families they're passing on the street who have to live, even if they're lucky, in a tent. You know, a lot of people don't even have tents, and they want to, you know, get off at Eastern Parkway and have an undisturbed walk to their, you know, like to their, like, you know, their bar where there aren't bartenders, they're mixologists, and, you know, then go home to their nice, you know, like condo, or, you know, some new building that you know, other building had to be destroyed, or a whole neighborhood had to be destroyed to make way for this new building. You know, I lived in New York long enough to see it. Like, people, they don't want to deal with the discomfort of seeing it, thinking about it, analyzing it. And that's, you know, we have to be honest about that. Like,
you are 1,000% right. You're 1,000% right. It has not changed since you left. I shit you not. It has not changed.
I imagine it's only gotten worse.
It definitely did. It definitely did. You're right on the money. Exactly how New York is. Exactly how it is.
Unfortunately, though, Jesse, I think it's not just the coastal elites who have that. I think it's really like and I think it's because we've all been in the United States, we've been force fed this individualism, this, you know, pull yourself up by your bootstraps mentality. And so the sense of community has been propagandized out of us. We're not worried about our neighbors. Like, most people don't even take the time to think about what others are going through. And so for a lot of people, and I think that, you know, they, meaning the people, you know, people in charge, the elites, whoever you want to call them, because it doesn't matter what word I use there, somebody's going to call me a conspiracy theorist or whatever. But there's a group of people who are in charge, and they've done a very good job of you know, propagandizing the humanity out of us and the sense of community. They want everybody hyper individualized, only worried about themselves. I'll worry about mine. And if they maintain like a basic level where a certain percentage of the population is at least comfortable, like you know, they can get by on bread and circuses, you know, then they don't have to worry about a mass uprising. And I think that they're flirting very dangerously close with, you know, tipping that too far in the other direction where too many people are suffering and it's going to be inevitable. I think that we're very nearly there now. I mean, it's COVID has really done a number on people. And it doesn't matter. I hate talking about COVID because it doesn't matter what you think of it. I don't care if you think it's completely fake and a hoax. I don't care if you think it's man-made or made by aliens. I don't give a shit. That doesn't matter. The things that are undeniable is the way that it's impacting society, the way that it's being used to take away our rights, the way that it's being used to isolate people. And I mean, those are things that are undeniable. And I think COVID has had like a really serious and very fast impact on people in it, like a varied amount of ways, whether it's housing or healthcare. Jesus Christ. Again, global pandemic, we can't even get a floor vote. We can't even get politicians who ran on this to talk about it. Pramila Jayapal was on Twitter the other day talking about expanding Medicare. It's her bill. Medicare for all is her bill, as Cori Bush, you know, made sure that we knew. It's her bill. She's not even fighting for it. She won't even talk about it. She's talking about expanding Medicare. What the fuck is that? What is happening? And that's just an acceptable thing to people. And I get yelled at for criticizing that.
Yeah, because you don't understand the process, Misty. You don't understand the steps.
We're doing a lot behind the scenes.
Behind the scenes stuff you don't know about.
Dude, the behind the scenes thing. Okay, we get it, because the eviction moratorium thing. So AOC was like, "Oh, we were totally taken by surprise," and then Cori Bush is like, "We've been working behind the scenes for months," and I'm like, "You can't even get your lies straight, fam. Right. Come on, get your story straight before you go on national TV." Jeez Louise. Unbelievable.
But it doesn't matter because they face no repercussions for that.
No, people are like defending them still.
Right. Yeah. You seen that video by Franco when
at the steps?
On the steps when Cori Bush is put on music to just kind of that was one of the most gross things I've ever seen in life. That was just so gross.
My jaw dropped. Like it just did now when you said it. That was basically my expression the first time I watched it was, Did that just happen? He's asking legitimate questions about American citizens who are suffering like hell. And you're dismissed. Like, first AOC is like, we'll deal with that later. Like, literally brushes him aside, like brushes his question off. And then Cori Bush comes out with a boombox, like, oh, I'm going to play some music. We're going to celebrate. What the fuck are you celebrating?
Right, it's not celebrating. And then the girl on the steps kills me the most out of everything, though. Give them a break. They're tired. We gotta support them. No,
I think what they did was admirable. No, it's not. Are you kidding me? And I love too when people were like yelling at Franco, what have you done? Bitch, I'm not a congressperson. What the fuck am I supposed to do? I'm Franco. Like, what do you want me to do? He has no clout. He has no money. He has no power. He's like a YouTube show. And what have you been doing? What are you talking about?
Right, ridiculous. Those are the people that I meet though. When I was protesting AOC's office during Forced to Vote, those are people I meet. Like I meet like that girl. Like, leave them alone. They're working hard. Stop bothering her. My favorite line I got from someone. You know who you're protesting? Yeah, in front of her office. In front of her office. I'm protesting. Right? You're protesting the wrong person. Go protest a Republican. Get them.
Why would we do that? Why the fuck would I go protest a Republican about Medicare for all? I know they don't support it. I know they're never going to vote for it. This person told me they support it, ran on it, took my money in donations, promising me they were going to fight for it. Now they're not. So I'm protesting them. That's how that works. They're so dumb. They have no idea how this shit works. They have no idea. Like, they really think that if we're just nicer to the squad, that they'll do what we want. Are you kidding me? Do you have any idea the amount of pressure that they're facing in DC right now? Nancy Pelosi, they've been completely co-opted. It took like less than 2 years for them to be completely co-opted. And you think being nicer is going to combat that? No, you have to pressure them. You have to put pressure on them. That's how it works. It's so annoying to me that they don't it's like they're infants. They have no idea what the fuck is happening. You cannot get things from politicians by being nice and defending their every move and not questioning anything they ever do. That's not how it works. It's so dumb. Who thinks that's like a legitimate strategy? I was telling
a buddy of mine too, like, that's going to take more work than any other work that we need to do on the left, is getting people to realize pressure is the only thing that we actually have as a tool. We don't have anything else. And the problem is that people don't realize that. They think that, again, going back to the whole electoral politics solution, that's not a pressure campaign. You're electing another person to take over someone else's position. It's not a pressure campaign. A pressure campaign is making someone uncomfortable. It's showing up to their office, showing up to their home. And I know some people say, oh, that's a bit much. No, I'm not. I'm there. I'll show up to someone's house.
Fuck yeah.
So like, for me, is really making that person uncomfortable and making that person understand that we're not going away and this needs to get done, because otherwise they're never going to fight for you. They're never going to advocate for you. And I think that people just are not there yet. They just don't understand that politicians are not someone that you who are stewards of public servants. Even though they are public servants, they're not public servants. They're not servants for you. They're servants for the corporations.
Oh, but they don't take corporate money.
Well,
they do.
Fuck off.
I wanted
to
to bring that up in the case of Nina Turner, because we were constantly fed the narrative about how Chantel Brown, that's her name, correct?
Right.
How she enlisted this pro-Israel lobby who didn't really do any pro-Israel campaigning to get her
just
elected.
anti-Nina stuff.
Yeah, but there is a super PAC was created specifically for Nina Turner to try to help her campaign, called the Working Families Party, I believe. And it's actually an official super PAC, and they raised something like $250,000 for her campaign. And so not only did she take super PAC money from a super PAC that was created to help her campaign, but there was a photo that ran in the New York Times when the circus at the Capitol was happening, the recent one, not January 6th. And there's a photo, it's like a success photo, like the revolt was successful. And there's a picture of, I think Cori Bush, AOC's in it with that like really fucking annoying smile she has, when she doesn't open her mouth, when she looks like she's kind of like wincing. And then there's some, I think he might be an aide or something like that, standing next to her, and he's wearing a Working Families Party shirt, the shirt of the super PAC that funded Nina Turner. So,
well, that's a party too. Like that's an actual party. Like in New York, that's like they've run candidates.
Maybe I'm getting the name wrong. Maybe it's not the Working Families Party. So forgive me if I'm.
Yeah, because I don't know anything about a super PAC that went for Nina Turner. I don't know anything about that.
Oh, they did. It's there's a piece in it in the American Prospect that came out.
I'll make Robbie look into it.
People are gonna be mad at me because I'm gonna say something about Nina Turner that's gonna offend some folks. If she's taking PAC money, she's corrupt. I'm sorry.
Come on, y'all. Listen, okay.
Because at the end of the day, you take PAC money. If you take PAC money, I don't care what it is. A PAC is not a good thing. I don't care any. I don't care how.
Can we talk about Nina Turner though? Because this
we can. Let's do it. Let's do it.
She used to sit on the board of Correct the Record. Yes, Correct the Record. Yes, that one. She was a Hillary Clinton surrogate. Her husband's, I think, a cop, and her brother, not her brother, her son. Like there's cops in her family. She has a consulting firm that is funded in part by a John Kasich super donor, and then she had him. Like I'm in Ohio. He's an Ohio dude, hardcore Republican, and the Kasich mega donor helped her fund her consulting group, and then she had John Kasich on her podcast, and you know what I mean? Like she's not. I get it. She gives a good speech. I get it. She really does. She gives a good speech, and I wish that I could trust her. But here's the thing. She's a politician. You shouldn't trust any fucking politician. You should be side-eyeing every single one of those motherfuckers. Every move that they make should be scrutinized. Every vote that they take, every campaign that they run, they're not your friends. I don't know why that's so difficult for people to understand. Like I am an asshole for calling out politicians. Hello, that's the fucking point. That's what you're supposed to do with these people. That's how you get things done. That is how you get things done. We've just said it a couple different times during the show, but everything that we've ever gotten has been because people demanded it loudly.
100%. If you look at women's suffrage, if you look at the civil rights movement, everything has been done from a pressure campaign. I mean, people need to go back and look at history. Nothing has got done electorally if it wasn't on the streets first. Full stop. If it didn't grow from the streets, it didn't get done. Period. That's how it works. And
when we say if it didn't come from the streets, we mean come from the streets led by the people, not led by a couple of Congress people looking for a PR stunt. Because that's another thing that bothered me. And I think Fiorella did a show about this, and she talked about this. But the fact that they didn't even center homeless people or people who were facing eviction or people who you know what I mean? Like that really troubled me. That it was very clearly a PR move, because to me, if you're legitimately serious about a movement, then you're centering the people that it directly impacts.
Go talk to the people that I just mentioned
that are in the tents,
who just literally got evicted, who are living in tents, and that would have been. I would have gave them a little bit more credit if they did.
That would have been awesome. They could have had maybe not thousands, but hundreds of people living in tents just from that immediate area. In fact, somebody, I forget who it was, but somebody sent me a picture. Oh, it was Morgan Archikina. She lives in DC. She's a journalist. She's a friend of the show. God damn it, I'm so sorry. And they sent me this picture where they had just moved forced a homeless camp to move that had just been across the street from the Capitol the morning right before the protest. Wow. And right around that area, you could have had hundreds of people, hundreds of homeless people come to your event and speak about what the eviction crisis is doing to them. And that's a movement. Having two Congress people with their boombox and their microphones and their, and Franco said that there was one night that Cori Bush spent the entire night in her car. And they were very protected, nobody, it was really hard to be able to talk to them or get near them. And that's not a movement.
Right.
So just to back up, it was reported in the American Prospect, but it was originally reported in HuffPost. And it is the Working Families Party. Progressive group launches six-figure super PAC to boost Nina Turner. The Working Families Party plans to spend at least $150,000 in the hotly contested Ohio congressional race. And so the Working Families Party, a progressive group, plans to spend at least $150,000 in support of Democrat Nina Turner's congressional bid, escalating national investment in an Ohio special election that has become an ideological proxy battle. The super PAC spending could reach as much as $200,000, according to Joe Dinkin, the WFP's campaigns director. Quote, in this moment, Democrats need to go big to deal with the scale of crises that people are facing, from the pandemic that we've lived through to the coming climate disaster that we're seeing on the news. Dinkins said, quote, "We need people who are ready to make the case for bold leadership and bold action that meets the scale of those problems. Nina is someone who has never shied away from that," unquote. The independent show of support, which is not coordinated with the Turner campaign, so I made a mistake there, is the second super PAC to arise on Turner's behalf in a bid to counter the influence of outside groups backing Shontel
That's how
Brown,
they get away with it.
Turner's more moderate Democratic opponent. So I can link to this in the show notes, but
yeah, that'd be great.
That's how they get away with it, though, because they just can't be directly coordinating with each other.
Right.
I'm gonna say this because a lot of people said, "What's wrong with PAC money?" So here's the problem with PAC money. So when you take a PAC, that's a contract, right? So you work for the PAC, so they own you. You're being leased, technically speaking, if you think about it, right? So if I run for office and this super PAC is funding my campaign, if they said, "Shareef, don't run for Medicare for all, don't talk about it," guess what? I have to do it now. That's the problem with a PAC, because you're literally signing a document. You're signing a contract. You're working for them. They're not working for you. It's not the same thing. It's not a relation. It's not a business. It's not like, I have my company here. You have your company here. We're making an agreement to do business together. No, they own you. You're property now.
Well, this is how progressives get away with this, because the only stipulation is that they just can't coordinate directly. But there is coordination that goes on. You would be really, 100%. Really, really dumb to think that that's not happening. And they're going to be influenced by those donors. Regardless, there's no way that that's not going to happen. Right. There's just no way.
Right. So, and then you have to understand something, that when you start a PAC, it's a PAC. You're making an agreement. You're making an arrangement about how policies and relationships that I want you to do on my behalf. So this is what this money is. So this money is not funding you for what you want to do. It's funding you for what I want to do. So you're going to do what I want you to do. Here's money for that. And if you don't, then there's a problem, right? So that's what PAC money is. You don't have this autonomous when you run an office, when you have a PAC. You have a PAC. It's not autonomous. You have to do whatever the donor told you to do. So for a few people who get mad at me because I said Nina Turner is not corrupt, now she is. You're taking PAC money. There's no other way around it.
Yep.
Yeah. So
that's the definition of corrupt, by the way.
Right. Right.
It's doing something for personal benefit, personal benefit gain or whatever. And that's it. Come on.
Because here's the thing though too, like PAC money is coming from like a small group. It's not community focused. You have to understand that. So people need to realize that when you run for office, you're speaking for the community. What you're doing when taking PAC money now, you're saying, fuck the community that you're supposed to be running for. I'm only going to talk to this small knit group because they're funding me. That's what you just said. I'm going to talk to the people who give me money, not the people who are not giving me money. That's not the purpose of running for office. Your purpose of running for office is to be community focused. You just remove the community focus out of it and said, this PAC is the only thing that matters.
And that's a tiny percentage of your constituency. And it's a tiny percentage that is, has money to give. And don't need policies to help them or to protect them. Do you know what I'm saying? They're already privileged as fuck. So you're then screwing over 99.7% of your constituency. And it's the 99.7% that needs you the most.
Right. The people who don't give money, a lot of them, it's not because they don't care about the issues, because some of them don't care about issues.
They don't have it.
They don't have the money to do it. So you're just saying that the person who needs help, because you don't have money, I can't help you. That's what you're saying. We take PAC money. There's no other way around it. You just said, fuck you, because you can't give me money. That's what you're saying. And there's no nuanced way about it. That's exactly what that means. That person needs help, pound sand, because you can't afford it. Only people who can afford me, I'm going to help. That's what you do when you're taking PAC money. There's no other way. Wiggle room. Can't word salad that. There's no way possible. That's what it means. That's why I only PAC money. And anyone who takes PAC money, never going to vote for you, and you're a piece of shit because you're not about community.
Yeah, and this has essentially been codified in law with Citizens United, and it's now become de rigueur. It's regular. Like, this is what you do when you're campaigning, when you're running, whether you're an incumbent or you're looking to unseat somebody. It's just going to get more and more regular. And, we don't need to talk about the extent of corporate dominance in politics. It's just, we know how horrendous it is.
Oh God, we're
that
so fucked.
The tentacles are everywhere.
Right.
But yeah,
well, and another way that they're able to take corporate money is everybody knows Nancy Pelosi is an amazing fundraiser, right? That's another thing. Jesse said it's like normalized all of this corporate money. I mean, people cheer Nancy Pelosi for being able to raise so much money, but then she will give money to progressive candidates, just like AOC took your money and gave it to CIA backed candidates. Nancy Pelosi can also do that. And that happens all the time. Democrats will help each other. They'll send money to different, battlegrounds or whatever, where they need to win. And so, Ilhan Omar is taking donations from Nancy Pelosi. Well, where do you think Nancy Pelosi got that?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, come on.
Nancy Pelosi and Glenn Greenwald wrote a really good piece detailing this. She and her husband have investments in Silicon Valley companies, the very same ones she's supposed to be overseeing. And these are investments to the tune of tens of millions of dollars.
She also owns rental property, by the way.
Right. So, and it's just looked at as, outside of independent journalism, it's just looked at as like, well, that's the way it goes. That's how the world works. And we're supposed to just swallow it and accept it. And, that all goes back to not just putting pressure on politicians, but making them scared, like the way Vietnam protests made Nixon scared when he was in power, and looking through the windows of the White House with Henry Kissinger and saying, like, looking at this mass of people who were angry at this war that was just completely built on lies. And he was actually afraid. I forget what his statement was, but, something to the effect like, we really have to do something because I'm scared. He didn't say that outright, but that was what happened. And so it is possible. But I think it's going to be a lot harder today because of the corporate influence that's so entrenched, and the careerism, the opportunism, and just the propaganda game and the shaping of the narrative. There's so much that we have to compete with. So, again, like, to the people who have a problem with Cori Bush not speaking or something along those lines, it's like, again, like Misty said, these people are not our friends. They're not going to do our bidding, and we can't. And even when they do something we agree with, we should not accept yes for an answer. Like, it's they never do enough anyway when they do something we agree with.
It should never be enough. Never. Like, somebody asked me one time, so what, is there no politician that's good enough for you? Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Ever. Never. Absolutely not. And I'm talking like even like people who are awesome, who may, just you would have to be like a legit revolutionary for me to like be down. And I don't think any legit revolutionary would ever run in the electoral system that we currently have. It's completely broken. But yeah, I just looked it up, by the way, because I wanted to make sure I wasn't talking out of my ass. And Nancy Pelosi gave $14,000 to Ilhan Omar. Where do you think she got that from? You know what I'm saying? Like, but I'm the asshole for calling it out, right? And what do you think that $14,000 ensures from Ilhan Omar?
And I think the problem too, we're coming from a perspective that we're looking into connecting the dots. And the people who are upset when you don't talk about Ilhan Omar, don't talk about AOC, they're not looking at that. They're not looking, they're not looking into research, they're not looking at the New York Times, they're not looking at lefty journalists and seeing, the backroom deals and all the other nefarious things that they're doing, like taking PAC money and funding CIA candidates. They're not looking at that. So they're not educated enough to understand what you're talking about. And that's the biggest problem too. And that's something I was telling my buddy, like, we need to stop being mad at certain people, because some people are just not informed. They're just not. Some people I won't give a pass to because I know they know better. But other people, I know that they're just fangirls or fanboys of politicians. They just said, don't talk about AOC. She's the best. And like, because I think
that's a huge part of it too. I think there's a huge cult of personality. There's like this, I call 100%. They're celebriticians. And so 100%. It's like, you're a fan now. It's not that you're a constituent who's, we've developed this like celebrity worship around politicians, which is really unhealtzy. It's really unhealthy. That should not be the relationship you have with elected officials.
That's the thing. AOC is not a politician first. She's a celebrity first. She's a politician
She's
second.
A brand.
she's a brand. She's on Vogue magazine. So you're on Vogue magazine. You're no longer a politician anymore.
Yeah.
Okay. It's just you're just not. And so that problem, that cult of personality is 100% evident in our culture. And we worship celebrities. So it's hard to come after them because we look at celebrities and politicians differently, and they know that. So that's why they prop people up to be a celebrity, because it automatically shields them from any criticism. Because, you know, if you have like, a lot of people are saying that The Rock may run for office. That's why that talk is being there, because they know that he's one of the most liked celebrity, and anything goes wrong under his watch, it's just going to be quiet. No one's going to say anything because he's loved, and they're gonna always prop up the next person to take over, because that's going to obfuscate any criticism about how many wars that we're going to be entering in, how many more social safety nets our community is not going to have. We're just going to leave it alone because The Rock's energy drink is delicious. I love The Rock.
Yeah, there's a really good, I mean, there are a lot of good books that go into this, but one of the best, I think, is Voltaire's Bastards by John Ralston. John Ralston Saul, and it was published in '93, but it's still just as relevant as ever. And they re-released it in 2013, and Chris Hedges wrote the introduction. But I highly recommend that book because it's about as good of a dissection of what we're talking about as you can get. And so yeah, it's like just this blurb here from the book itself: whether in politics, art, business, the military, entertainment, science, finance, academia, or journalism, these experts, you know, some of the people we're talking about, share the same outlook in methods. The West is an incomprehensible, directionless machine run by process-minded experts whose cult of scientific management is bereft of both sense and morality. So essentially what we've been talking about with these people who are no more than cults of personality, the Squad being the prime example.
They're actors.
Please send me that book. I want to read that. I have a lot of books I have to read too, actually.
I know. I have a really long list. I did finally finish Danny Scherzen's book, which is right back there. It's really good. It's a big book. It's a long book, but it's a worthwhile read for sure. But yeah, I think that's a real, and I think that it's intentional. I think that we have this kind of celebrity worship culture around politicians for a reason. It's kind of like a soap opera featuring psychopaths, and they're entertaining us while they murder us slowly. You know what I mean? And politics shouldn't be entertainment. And that's what mass media has a huge role in this. You know, they've turned the news into entertainment. It's not news anymore. It's just about getting clicks and likes and all of that stuff. And you know, we're in a really dangerous time, I think, because the propaganda is at an all-time high. They're seeking to silence any and all dissent. I mean, Twitter just came out with a new thing where now you can report tweets as being misleading, which who the fuck is to decide what is misleading? Like, we have Silicon Valley tech bros in some office somewhere deciding who gets free speech and not. It's, you know, it's a really dangerous time. And then we have these politicians who are very good at their roles. They're very good at playing their roles. And they're very good at distraction. And I mean, listen, the whole beef between Marjorie Taylor Greene and AOC, y'all, that is such a circus sideshow that matters to nothing. I don't understand. And people will spend like an entire week talking about it. And but they're very good at those levels of distraction. And it's really unfortunate because, you know, we need to be focused right now. Like we're in a really dangerous time. I don't know if people, and I know that people aren't paying attention because they're being distracted by the entertainment, but our rights are being stripped from us on a daily basis. Billions and trillions of dollars are being shoveled to the top 1%. They're taking everything from us right now and destroying it's really bad. It's really bad. Like, I hate to be like negative Nancy, but it's really bad.
Yeah, and there are organizations popping up. Like, this was in the news for a little bit after January 6th, and then it just disappeared. But if you look up sedition hunters, there's actually a seditionhunters.org, and that's the name of the organization. And it's a global community of open source intelligence investigators, or OSINT, working together to assist the US FBI and Washington, D.C. Capitol Police in finding people who allegedly committed crimes in the January 6th Capitol riots. So I remember when these people first started coming around, they were like a very independent, it was like individuals coming together and using like Google Maps and functions like that to kind of track people who had participated. But now they've like consolidated into an actual organization and like working hand in hand with the FBI, who I mean, let's not be coy here. Like the FBI was involved in what went on at the Capitol.
Absolutely.
100%.
So it's, you know, it just speaks to the danger that we're talking about here.
It was done on purpose.
100%.
I know people are going to call me a conspiracy theorist, but like, you're going to tell me that a group of random people stormed the Capitol and the law enforcement was unprepared?
Dude, we were there 2 days before that we were there for Force the Vote and for Julian Assange protests. And there were more cops at our little like 50-person protest than I think were there the entire day of January 6th. And I was in DC. People were talking about January 6th. Like when we went to Dunkin' Donuts to get coffee and donuts for the protest, they were the lady there was talking about the Trump protest that was coming up. They weren't calling it like an insurrection. They were just saying that like, yeah, Trump's going to be here on, you know, I think it was a Wednesday or whatever. The Trump people were going to be here on Wednesday or whatever. They knew it was coming. They absolutely knew it was coming.
Everyone knew.
Yes. So that was such an obvious psyop. I don't know why people are unclear about that. It's blatantly obvious. I mean, they were like the doors were open. They were taking selfies with the cops. Really?
If it happens on mainstream media, it's real.
Mm-hmm.
That's the problem.
And it's a gold mine for the squad, for example, because not only do they get to you know, revisit their glory days of not necessarily Russiagate, but going after Trump and the whole fantasy of impeaching him, but it's a huge distraction from Medicare for all. And they don't have to focus on that or talk about that anymore because we have the threat of a coup that we have to deal with.
And it's a fundraising mechanism. They can fundraise like crazy off of it, just like they did the eviction thing. It took 40 minutes for Cory Bush to send me a text message. 40 minutes.
And it's even more problematic because then groups like sedition hunters start popping up, and you know, they're unelected, unaccountable. You know, we're seeing, and it's like another manifestation of what we see with the Atlantic Council working with Facebook, for example. And it's just completely undemocratic, and you don't see any politicians standing against this. In fact, they probably cheer it on. Yeah,
they cheer this shit on. Like AOC, we talked about this earlier with Alan McLeod. No, maybe it was yesterday with Magnus, but like first of all, she sent out a mass email to tell all of her supporters, her millions of supporters, to get on social media and go mass report accounts that are saying mean things about her. That's fucking crazy. And then, you know, she like that guy, I forget his name, but the Capitol Police got sent, or the State Patrol, the Capitol Police sent the State Patrol to his house because he made a joke about her on Twitter. That's where we're at. The progressives are like cheering this shit on, like cheering on censorship. I mean, we can't even get any of them to say Julian Assange's name.
Right. We're 100% in a fascist state, and when you say that, people look at you like you're crazy. And when you say that, you know, people on the left who are pushing fascism, they're saying that's not a thing, and it is. It really is, and it's crazy to be how, like, when I bring up the fact that, you know, Facebook's doing censorship and Twitter doing, all these social media sites doing censorship, and people's argument was like, well, don't say anything inappropriate on Twitter. I was like, that's not okay. That's not a crime if I call someone an asshole.
No.
Okay, it's not. It's like we already have a judicial process already. Let's not reinvent the rules. Let's follow that. Okay, let's just follow that.
They're a private company. We just talked about this with Alan McLeod. They're a private company. I'm so done with that. The social media giants are completely intermeshed with our government, period. They spend a shit ton of money on lobbying. They have all kinds of different PAC groups and all of that stuff. Like they go to the same dinner parties, you know, like the Atlantic Council. Henry Kissinger sat on that board. I don't know if he still does because he's old as fuck, but he sat on, like, these are government people. Like, it's all a cesspool. I mean, I think the communications director from Kamala Harris's campaign went to Twitter, or maybe they left Twitter and came to her campaign. I can't remember which way it was, but they all work together. And so they're not, yes, maybe technically and legally they're private companies, but there is no like gray area in between Twitter and our government. None whatsoever. They are completely intermingled, and they should not get to decide who gets free speech and who doesn't. That should not be a thing. That's terrifying.
Right. But also too, like, you're blatantly, when anybody who says that I don't say anything mean, you're automatically saying that free speech shouldn't be a thing.
Mm-hmm.
You're automatically saying it's okay to not have your First Amendment right. I mean, think about that for a second. You know, you're letting the government know that, okay, fuck the amendment.
Yeah, these people are authoritarians. Like they think they're lefties.
Right.
You're not a lefty.
You're not a leftist.
You're not
Wow.
a leftist. Authoritarianism and leftism do not go together.
Right.
That's not a thing that it's just like anti-imperialism. That's a non-negotiable. Authoritarianism and imperialism are non-negotiables. Sorry, that's my leftism. I know that word gets tossed around a lot and it's been bastardized and co-opted and all that stuff. But my leftism has nothing to do with imperialism and it has nothing to do with authoritarianism.
Yeah, and it's not about being mean in the end. It's about anything that challenges the dominant narrative or the dominant agenda that these companies, which are essentially part of the government, as we've just discussed, you know, if you go against that, then they're going to censor you. Or even if you make a joke about them, they'll use that as, you know, ammunition, as Misty just described. And it's not even like they take the joke as a serious threat. It's a way to like preemptively shut down any future criticism you might have or any future critical activism you might partake in. Because look, even if you joke about it, they're going to shut you down. I've had it happen to me. I made a simple joke about AOC and I was shut out of Twitter for 12 hours. And, you know, a lot worse things happen to people, you know, deplatforming and all that. But
that's the start though. But that's the start.
That is the start.
Yeah,
that's the start. That's a signal letting you know, shut the fuck up, Jesse.
Yeah.
And now I bet you self-censor a little bit, even like subconsciously. That's what they do it for. It's that they if they can get you to self-censor, then that's half the game. I mean, it's really half the game.
I don't when it's serious, when it has to do with policies and politics. And you know, it was like late at night and it was something to do with Tesla. She was like, she said like something like Elon Musk.
Oh yeah, you wanted
Tesla.
to shoot her into space with
and
Tesla.
And I said she should do humanity a favor and shoot herself into space in her own Tesla. And yeah, I got kicked off of Twitter temporarily.
That's awesome.
That.
Like
that's
that.
not even it wasn't like a threat. It was just like just shoot yourself into the sun. People say that shit all the time. I can't tell you the number of celebrities I've said we need to shoot them into the sun.
Yeah, and I usually don't tweet stuff like that, but you know, once in a while it's fun. And you just kind of want to tell people like AOC to shut the fuck up. And that's all I was doing. And but yeah, you know, it just goes to show like you step 1 foot over the demarcation line that they've set for their agenda, and they will come after you. And you know, whether it's through a joke like that or whether you have a show that's just starting out, they will. And especially if you're on the smaller side, people say, well, why would they care about a small show? Because they want to stop you. Yeah, that's the easiest to go after. And there's actually more of a threat from smaller shows because they set an example. Like if you see a small show that's just started that's doing well and you've been thinking about doing one yourself, you take inspiration from that. And they don't want all these shows asking critical questions to pop up because that is a threat to them.
Well, here's the thing though, which a lot of people don't realize is that, let's say the establishment takes on a big show, right? You're in your brain, you're automatically thinking that, well, that's probably the straw that broke the camel's back, right? You're thinking that, well, there's probably like other things that I'm not aware of or why that big show got taken down. If you're a small show, right, and no one ever heard of you and you make the news, oh shit, what happened there? I need to find out what happened. Oh, let me not say anything then. Let me be quiet. Let me shut my mouth. I'm not going to say anything because the show got taken down for saying something against AOC. So it is a huge roadblock for like future podcasters or future journalists or whatever the case may be to say anything publicly, because now if they're going to shut you down, what are they going to do to a bigger show that does the same thing? You know, so that's why they do that. Because people don't think about why they go after small shows. It's to set an example, because you can't set the same example to a big show because there are other parameters that you in your brain, you kind of rationalize and say there's probably other things that that person is doing.
Well, and if you come for a big show that has a huge following, like if you come for Jimmy Dore, say he has almost a million followers or subscribers on YouTube, his subscribers are going to be pissed. Like you're calling attention to the fact that you're censoring them. If you shut down a bunch of small shows, yeah, people are going to be like, what the hell? Why are they taking? But it's like such a smaller number of people that you can get away with it without it really making that much of an impact.
Exactly.
And this is how they control the narrative, you know, and they do it with Medicare for all. I mean, let's bring it back to Medicare for all, because we've talked about this numerous times. It's like my favorite story because I love whistleblowers, but Wendell Potter came out and showed that that's what happens. Like these health insurance these health insurance companies hire literal propagandists, like people who will write propaganda for them. And his job was to mislead the American people about the Canadian healthcare system. And that's what he did for a living.
When I was in Philly, I got to sit down with him and talk to him about that. And it was just fascinating to like really talk shop with him and just go into the minutia of like what health insurance companies kind of do. And his job was like as a spin doctor to like make things sound really pretty and sound good. And I'm working on your interests. And he even told me for my job, because I get healthcare at my job, look at how much money they're taking every time you look at your paycheck. You know, look at the increase. You know, and it made me think about it, because I don't think about it, because I know I can't afford my healthcare. Most people don't. Right. I know I can't afford my healthcare anyway, so I don't use it. I have it. I don't use it, because going to the doctor for me is like, a lot of people don't realize that just because you have employer-based healthcare doesn't mean those people can afford to go to the doctor, because I can't. Right. I just don't.
Copays are ridiculous and all that shit.
So I don't go. I didn't even pay for it. But he was like, look at the increase of how much money you have to pay going to the doctor. And he said, they slowly just put a little, just add more and they take more out. And they don't really talk about it. They just do it. You know, your job doesn't come to you and say, hey, we're going to increase your healthcare, whatever. They just do it. They just take the money out. And so just talking to them about that kind of stuff is really interesting and really fascinating about why employer-based healthcare is gross and inhumane, because also too, when the pandemic hit, I couldn't go to the doctor. I couldn't, like, even if my healthcare was affordable, right? My job, because I was furloughed, I can't go to the doctor and use my health insurance.
The idea that your ability to go to a doctor depends on your employment.
It's stupid.
Is so stupid.
It's so stupid.
How many people are in completely dead-end jobs that they hate and are miserable because they can't afford to lose their health insurance? The other thing that bothers me, how many people are in abusive relationships because they are dependent upon their spouse for their health insurance? Like our system is completely inhumane. It makes no sense whatsoever. It's hugely expensive. We have the worst outcomes in the world. And we pay more than everybody, like a lot more than everybody. It's nonsensical at its very core. And it's weird to me that we still have to have this conversation and that we can't get people who ran on this as like an issue in their campaigns to actually like even almost fight for it. Like even like try a little bit. They won't even do that. In fact, they're switching their rhetoric and talking about expansion.
Yeah. And they want to keep it a single issue and not connect the dots, as we were talking about earlier, particularly to foreign policy. Why are we giving Israel $4 billion a year so they can have free healthcare? They can have free college education.
I talked to my aunt about that, and she's like, stop talking about other countries, blah, 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 blah. I was like, that's important. So stop talking about billionaires not paying taxes. Because I was like, that's important. That's a problem.
It's connected.
That's connected.
None of these issues happen in a vacuum.
Right, exactly. This all connected, 100%. Like, the fact of the matter is that if we can spend that much money so Israel and all these other countries can have healthcare, we can do that here. That means we can afford it.
Yes.
Stop.
Like I just said earlier, we just spent over $2 trillion in a completely useless war in Afghanistan. Imagine if we had spent like even just half of that money on our own people. I mean, imagine the world that we would live in if instead of blowing up Afghanistan for 20 years, we had Medicare for all and, free college education. And we had like an educated populace that was healthy and thriving 100%. And we had a jobs program. Imagine if instead of blowing up poor brown people, we took care of our own people and like handled our own business.
That's why I feel the healthcare fight is the most important fight out of all other fights, because I personally feel once we get healthcare, we can solve so many other problems.
Yes.
Because at the end of the day, like people mention France all the time, we need to be yellow vests. I was like, first of all, we don't have the culture that the French people have. We're not there. We don't have the moxie they have. We just don't. We
Well,
can't
the
be
French are the gold medalists in protesting forever.
absolutely
Like
100%.
forever.
100%. So before you talk about being like the Michael Jordan, before you even try to compare yourself to Jordan status, right? Because that's what French people are as far as activism, right? You need to like get to that level. You have to understand why they're there, first of all.
Except they don't invest in private prisons like Michael Jordan does.
Well, okay, but you know what I mean, like the greatest of all time, the GOAT. We'll just say the
Right,
GOAT.
right.
If you want to be the
GOAT.
Simone Biles,
right, exactly.
then you got to work out in the gym a little bit.
Right, you got to go in the gym, and here in this country we don't do that. And so I was saying that we need to get our healthcare in order so we can protest because they have their healthcare. You know, so we need to do that here so we can fight for.
That's a huge hurdle. That's a huge getting people in the streets. A huge part of why we can't do that is because people can't afford to risk their jobs because their healthcare is tied to their employment. And it's a huge hurdle.
100%. And so, you know, full disclosure, one of the things that is going to be on the table down the line, you know, a general strike is something that, you know, a lot of people always throw out, but like
we're not there yet.
We're not there yet because
we need mutual aid networks first.
No, before we even, because a lot of people bring it up, before we even do that, we need a giant network first before we even really begin to talk about that. That's a year, and just in my brain, maybe more. That's a year planning to even get to the to even like do step one of a general strike. In my opinion, we need like a whole year of networking.
And that's a year of like, we need things to be in a better, because like right now, the level of censorship and it's incredibly difficult to organize. The methods of communication are almost nearly completely state controlled. And so even just trying to organize and even just trying to get events out into the ether is really difficult. You get shadow banned and you get all of your stuff gets, hit by the algorithm. Trust me, we know from organizing Assange stuff, like it's really difficult to get the message out there because especially with Assange, if you have Assange in the title of anything, or if you tweet about Assange, it's 100% shadow banned. It's 100% hit by the algorithm. It's terribly difficult. And that's why, you said that you think the healthcare battle, that's why I always talk about the battle against propaganda and information control is the number one battle. Because we have to deal with that first before we can organize for anything else that we care about.
Right.
Because
you might be right about that too, because we do need communication and how we organizers and activists communicate with each other needs to be in sync. Like we can't do anything. Like there's so many different ways, the March 2014, how we communicate online and how, whether do text or phone or email or like certain other apps and programs that we use. Cause we have so many different ways of communicating with each other, and we always constantly adapt because there's always an issue of how we communicate. So you're 100% correct on that point. So that's a problem for sure. There is so much shadow ban, there is so much censorship going on, and like that's so many reasons why we do have to update and adapt to different programs, because we're always getting kicked off something, and it's really hard. I can't tell you how many times my Zoom account messes up, or how many times my StreamYard messes up, or how many times certain other programs I use mess up, and it's because they're paying attention. They know we're organized. They know they're active. So anyone think that's a conspiracy theory is not true.
Dude, I don't know how much more evidence we could give you to show that that's not a conspiracy theory. Have you heard of Edward Snowden? Have you heard of Vault 7? Of course they're paying attention to what we're doing. They're spying. What's his face? Oh, am I forgetting his name? John Brennan? Yeah. When he went and lied to Congress? Yeah.
The drone czar. Oh, yes. James Clapper. Thank you. I'm so bad at names. I always like super. They're all the same evil to me, so I don't give a shit. Yeah, they're like a hydra-headed.
Right. Because they all work. They're all owned and operated by the exact same people. So they're just like little finger puppets of evil donors and stuff. That's all they are. But yeah, we know that they're paying attention to what we're doing. We know that they're spying on us. Seriously, hi to the nice NSA agent that's probably listening to this conversation right now. That's real talk, and that's not like a conspiracy theory. We have an unbelievable amount of evidence backing up that claim. Unbelievable amount.
Just look at Twitter. Just keep it simple. How many times have you all probably tweeted something, you can't find your tweet, you can't find stuff you liked, you can't find stuff you retweeted because it was controversial, or they're paying attention. That's not an accident. Twitter is $1 billion company. They can afford that kind of tech support of being there. If you can't find your tweet or you can't find a like or retweet, that's because they don't want you sharing that shit.
And they have a monopoly. Like they know that you, where else are you going to go? Everybody's on Twitter. Where else are you going to go? So they can get away with that shit. And they don't have to answer for anything because they're a private company. And so they get away with it.
And one of the things I've been noticing on YouTube lately, just looking at our stats, is that for some shows, the view count has actually decreased. So not sure how somebody unwatches a show, but apparently it's happening. Obviously it's the algorithm and the suppression, but
Jimmy Dore even showed the TYT. They even mess with your likes and your dislikes, because when Jimmy Dore did their whole like freak out video, Jimmy Dore had a screenshot where it had like I don't know, a certain number of dislikes, and then the next morning he woke up and he looked at it and it had decreased significantly. Like there was a significant amount less of dislikes on their video, and that's not like a thing that just magically happens where people like by the thousands come back and unlike a video. That doesn't happen. It's a very obvious and intentional algorithm thing that they're, and you can talk about whether it's a conspiracy theory about whether some certain channels are helped more than others. I don't think that's debatable either. Of course, people who are in that mainstream media bubble are going to get helped out. They get helped out algorithmically. How many times have I been watching a Jimmy Dore video or a Convo Couch video, and they take me, if my auto plays on, they'll take me to MSNBC? Those two things don't go together. Like those two things don't go. Convo Couch and MSNBC. No, you should be taking me to another Convo Couch video or a Nico video or a Franco video. You know what I mean? People try to pretend like all of this is like a conspiracy theory and that we're crazy for thinking that this is narrative control. This is narrative management. Like we talked earlier, we're in a fascist state. One of the first things fascists do is seek to control the narrative. They shut down newspapers. They burn books. That's exactly what this is. It's just on a grander scale.
Yep. And it's done so subtly too, because it's not like something that people who like say, if you randomly just watch YouTube videos, you're not paying attention. If you're like a passive observer of like content, you're not like, if you're not in this space, you're not paying attention to that. You know what I mean? You don't think of nothing of it. You just watch that video, oh, I like that, and then you move on about your day. Because we're in this space, we're aware of it. We're paying attention to that because it means something to us, because we're activists, we're organizers, we're truth tellers. We want the information to get out there. So a lot of people just they're not going to pay attention to that. So to them, you're talking crazy talk. What are you talking about? So that's the problem. But I mean, in regards to healthcare, the kind of path that, that I'm on, and I'm trying to move the team
tell us
on.
what you have coming up, because you guys have been doing a lot of really good stuff.
So just big picture here, the march, the rally, UN, and then, like I said, we want to eventually, my goal is to organize a general strike, because I feel that we're not going to get healthcare until we get more people in the street. But again, that's a heavy lift, and we do need to get a lot of organizers. We do need to get a lot of activists engaged. We have to get people on the same page. So we're not going to get anywhere yet until that actually happens. And so that is a long time, but this is why we do want to plan another march next year. We do want to have other smaller actions coming down the line. And that's all due to the fact that we definitely want to start organizing with different people. So the next action is the UN. So we have a petition up, getting signatures. We actually put a call out, we put a press release out and said, if the United States government doesn't answer to this, we're going to file a complaint. And so a lot of people ask me, like, why are you complaining? Why are you going to file a complaint for? There's a process, why are you going around the issue? And I said, well, it's a pressure campaign like anything else. Having a rally, having a march, filing a complaint at the UN, we're going on record. We need to have those receipts and saying that we are serious. We're not a coalition that's disappearing. We definitely want to keep doing this, we're not going to stop until everyone gets healthcare. So the first thing we're going to do is, with the team, is we're trying to figure out how do we go about the process of filing, because we never went to the UN before and filed a complaint before. So right now, currently, we're having a meeting with Martha Schmidt. She's a lawyer. She's also on the human rights. I think it's the Human Rights Framework Project. Let me just double check that.
I'm glad you guys are getting legal advice, because
so
you want to do this right.
The Human Rights Framework Project. I'm actually meeting her today for coffee. We're gonna go talk shop. She has tons of experience with litigation and with dealing with human rights. We're also meeting with Dr. Casanova Willis. She's also another human rights activist as well. So we're trying to reach out to people, not just in the healthcare sphere, but also in the human rights sphere. And too often, and it's weird that it's not like there isn't a marriage. And like for me, the next step was to try to make that a marriage. So reaching out to lawyers and reaching out to other human rights activists, even Shareef Snuggs, he's we're being outreach to him. He's also giving us some help. And so the next step is getting all our research, reaching out to other organizations, not just in healthcare, but also in human rights, having them also co-sign onto the actual complaint, because we want to make a big noise about this as possible. So not just like March for Medicare for All signs. So I want to have like a list of all the different organizations when we do send the filing, that there's other lists of organizations also helping filing to make them know that this is not some like small little group is upset. The majority of the country is upset about this. So getting the research, getting boots on the ground, talking to other organizations, seeing who else wants to be involved with the filing, seeing how do we file, like what is the process, how can we not get them to say, oh, this is not filed correctly. Getting all that litigation help is crucial. It's going to take a lot more time and energy that I kind of imagined it would be, because I didn't know how much work there would to go into this. So that's the first, that's like kind of like the first step, getting everyone in the room, and then seeing what all the data we need, and then doing the filing. We're also going to have a UN panel discussion. So Savage Joy, Shahid Buttar, Martha Schmidt, and Dr. Vicky Casanova Willis will be on that panel discussion. That will be sometime next week. They're going to talk about why we filing, why is this important, why is it the next step, why is the March for Medicare for All going in the direction? Because we definitely need to draw attention to the fact that the United States government we do not have healthcare here. So I don't know how many people outside of the United States is aware of that, but we want to draw attention to that. And so for me, in my mind, that the more we apply pressure, the more we let more outside allies outside of this country aware of that issue, I think we grow the movement. And so again, talking about general strike, right? Getting more of those outside allies, including within allies here in America, I think then at that point we can have that discussion. So this is what I'm talking about, having more synergy. I'm not just talking about here, I'm also talking about elsewhere as well. So when I talk about general strike, I definitely want to have more, I want the coalition to grow to a point where we can call people, let's say in India, we can call people, let's say in China, we can call people anywhere around the country, around the world rather, and we share resources, we share content, we share information. I want to grow this to bigger than what it can be before we start having a nuanced conversation about, okay, what's next about, shutting down, the country, so that needs to happen first, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think it's really important to take an internationalist stance, not just with this, but with
everything.
A lot of what we're trying to do, trying to make.
No, absolutely.
We need global solidarity against empire.
Yes, absolutely.
Please and thank you.
Yes, global solidarity. That's the perfect word. And I'm gonna start using that too. Thank you, Missy, because that's where I'm thinking about. That's what when I was thinking about the whole UN, I didn't like, no one in my team is thinking that us filing with the UN, now we're going to get healthcare. Woo, we won. Like,
right.
No one's thinking that. And I think a lot of people feel like, we kind of feel that way. Like, no, it's another question campaign. I look at filing at the UN, and then again, I could be wrong. I look at it having a march. I look at that like having a rally, like doing a sit-in. I kind of look at it all the same, because it doesn't matter. I don't think it doesn't matter. We're going on record. We want those receipts. We want to say that we are serious about this issue, that we're also doing something. So,
well, and that also calls attention to it, which brings other people into the fight, because then somebody who maybe hadn't heard about it will be like, hey, that's awesome. I can't believe that they just, sent a petition to the UN to get healthcare. Like, that's awesome. I want, what are they doing next? And that's how you grow a movement. So yes, nobody thinks that it's just like, because I get the same thing too, Shareef, when we go and we protest at the DOJ, people are like, oh, you really think that that's going to free Julian Assange? No, I don't think that's going to free Julian Assange. But what that does is it calls attention to the issue, and we're standing outside the gates of hell and we're yelling at them with megaphones, and people walking by, we've experienced it. People driving by, people walking by. When we march through the streets of DC, people pay attention, they read your signs, and then they go home and they're curious. So they look up what's happening. That's how you build a movement. Like, it's really bizarre to me that I have to explain this to people who claim to be like activists and organizers. That's how this works.
It happens all the time. And also too, my next step too, as well, inside the coalition is unions. Because again, like I said, I have two as of right now, I have two jobs. I have like a worker co-op. It's called the drivers co-op here in New York. I have them part of the coalition, and I also have there's another company that's also part that's growing inside the coalition now. So when I'm talking about we're not there yet, I'm talking about not just having international organizing activists involved with us, having people here in the state involved with us, and having unions, having jobs, having businesses. We need to have small business. We need to have all of them in the coalition. If you just have activists and organizers and people in your echo chamber in your coalition, it's not big enough. So before you have a general strike, we need to have so many hands. We need people who have like businesses, small business, human rights activists, people from internet. We need to have everyone on the same page. We need to have all these people in a coalition before we can do anything. And so that's just my 2 cents.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we have to build coalitions, and that's something that a lot of people really don't want to do. They want to stay safely in their bubble, and they don't want to talk to anybody that they disagree with. And you're never going to get anything done that way. Like I mean, with the Assange stuff, we build coalitions across, like we're marching with In the Damn Wars and Fuck Censorship. Like those are 3 different groups. We're all coming together, and we're going to, I mean, if Medicare for All ever wants to have Assange people at Medicare, I mean, I emceed the Columbus March for Medicare for All. I'm an Assange activist. You best believe that I brought up Julian Assange while I was emceeing that event, because all of these things are interconnected. And that's what we need to do. We need to build coalitions across movements and across issues and bring everybody in. These are all things that we care about. They're all things that we're fighting for. They're all things that will benefit each and every one of us. We can come together and work for those things. It doesn't mean you got to be best buds. Doesn't mean you got to go on vacation together or have a dinner party or go to each other's kids' birthday parties. You just have to work to get shit done. If you care about something, it shouldn't matter who you're working with. I just want to get healthcare, so I don't care who I have to work with to get that done.
Right, and that's my whole beef with the whole national versus state people. I don't get them. I really don't get that. I don't get the nuanced conversation about that. I really don't. I know some people feel like even in our own coalition feel like state issues is like a death trap. And I know a lot of people, state people, feel that,
I don't think it's a death trap, because I think, as you said, it's just another pressure campaign. Right. It's just another. Will it be effective? Will it work? Well, I mean, at this point, we just need to just do everything. Every tool at our disposal, we need to be using it.
No, agreed. 100%. And I just feel that I feel that long term, if we keep continuing doing it, we're never going to get anything. I just think that we have to get into a point where like you said, like we have to feel like, because you have like a different opinion about other passive legislation, that's separate from healthcare. I can't work, because I have a lot of people that won't join the coalition because other groups in our coalition, they vehemently disagree with them on different policies. Mm-hmm. So it was like, well, yes, they're advocates for healthcare like me, but I don't like the fact that they're pro-gun, or they like this, or they like that. Okay, who cares? I'm not interested.
This isn't about guns. This isn't about abortion. It's not about anything but healthcare.
Right. So why does that matter? Like there was one group that literally said to me that if you have forced to vote or any Jimmy Dore people or Jimmy Dore associated with the march, we're not interested. I said, okay, bye. This is not for you. This is not for you. I can't work with you there. Like, you just literally said that you don't want to work with us. Literally a group told me that. I was like, I'm not going to have people like
gatekeeping healthcare.
Right.
Healthcare. Really?
I'm not going to do that. This is not what we're doing here.
Yeah. And what you're essentially saying when you do that is that, because this group or people affiliated with this group support this, which I disagree with, then they don't deserve healthcare. I'm going to fight for Medicare for All, but only for a select group of people, not the ones I disagree with.
Anybody putting personality over policy is making a grave mistake.
You're not serious. You're not a serious person.
You're not serious.
You're not a serious person.
You're not a serious person.
You're not at all. You're not at all.
No, and that's really frustrating to me, because I mean, that happens a lot too with Assange stuff, because people put his personality or their perceived idea of his personality. Oh, well, he's a rapist. He's a terrorist. He's a hacker. He's a this. It doesn't matter. He could be the worst person on earth, and what's happening to him is wrong.
That's irrelevant. It's irrelevant.
So his personality makes no difference. And that's what they're doing with Jimmy Dore. Oh, well, I can't involve myself with this because of Jimmy Dore. Do you want healthcare or not?
Right. Like Julian Assange can have the biggest ego in the world and Jimmy Dore could be like the biggest asshole in the world. I don't
Doesn't
care.
matter.
I
Doesn't
don't care.
matter.
Like let's talk about the issue that's at hand right now. Like we can have that discussion. That might be a valid discussion for later. Right now, we're talking about censorship. Do you agree with that?
No.
If you do, then let's talk.
Yeah.
Let's talk about healthcare. Is that important to you? Okay, great. All that other stuff we can talk about later. Like, let's talk about the actual issue at hand here.
Mhm.
Because guess what? When we pass Medicare for all, they're going to be rapists, pedophiles, sex offenders, people in prison. They're also going to get healthcare.
Mhm. Everybody. It's Medicare for
Everybody.
all.
Everybody.
All, not just people I like.
Right. It's
Not how
just
that works.
it's really weird to me that, you know, that's a discussion. I just don't understand it.
Yeah.
I'm new, and again, like you guys know, I'm new to politics. I'm new to all this. So like for me, it's like I'm looking at people like deer in headlights, like, what are you guys talking about? I don't understand.
Welcome to the shit show, Shareef.
I don't know what you guys are talking about. I don't know what this means.
Yeah.
Oh man.
It's really frustrating. Anyways, we've kept you for long enough. I'm sorry to take up so much of your time.
No, it's fine. I'm having fun, guys.
No, yeah, we like long form, so we always do this. I always feel a little bit bad about taking so much of people's time, but I am looking forward to see how the UN thing turns out. I am excited to see what other events that you'll have. And like I said, like even if the people that hate me the most and that I hate the most, if you want to organize an event for healthcare, I'll show up. I'll show up. I'll be there. Have one. Please do it. Please do it. Like we need all hands on deck. This is a thing where we need all hands on deck. And I'm totally willing to work with people. I know Shareef is willing to work with, Jesse's willing. We're all willing to work with people that we don't agree with on other things because it's not important and people are dying. And I'm going to put my ego aside to fight for the thing that matters most. And I wish that other people would be able to do that. And it shouldn't matter if you like me or if you like Jesse or if you like Jimmy Dore. Shouldn't matter. What matters is that people need healthcare and they need it now. This isn't like an incrementalism. We got to wait type of deal. No, people are dying right now and it's unnecessary deaths. And we should be appalled by that. We should be ashamed of that. And we should be willing to do anything that it takes to turn that around. So, you know, get involved, find the, do you want to tell everybody where they can find the petition and you on Twitter and the march on Twitter and all of that, like, so everybody can get connected and keep up with all the events that you have coming up?
Yeah, if people can DM me on Twitter at I am for Medicare for all, so it's at IAM4M4A. And so you just find me on Twitter. You can DM me. I'll definitely share the petition link with you. It's a long link. It's on the I just had a brain fart for a second. It's on
Change or
no, not Change. It's on damn it, I just literally had a brain fart. I have to now go into it's
I had one earlier.
It's literally on my in my phone because I have it saved. So as soon as my friends or my coworkers talk to me about it, I was on the Action Network.
Okay.
Yeah, we can we'll link it in the show notes and stuff, and I'll tweet it out too.
Literally have it here. I literally have it. As soon as like my coworkers at my job now, like, I have them all like sign this petition. Sign it right now.
Yeah, when you go sign it, you make your friends and family sign it too.
Right. I make them do that.
Yeah. Cool. So where can everybody find the march? There's the march. Is it March?
So you can also go to the website because the website
that's
also
what I was trying to think of
as well. So if you're going to go to M4M4all.org, the petitions there, the videos that we do, all the work that we have coming up, we're also going to start putting that on the website as well, which is really cool. You can also reach out to us and see how, let's say, if you have an action that you want to do, that you want us to be engaged with, we're completely open to that. We're always looking for organizers and other activists to be involved, not even just with actions that we're doing. If you have an action you want to pitch to us, I'm willing to travel. I'm here in Washington State right now. I live in New York. I'm going to help out the whole Washington Red Berets. They have an event coming up this week. I'm working with them, so I'm willing to travel. So you're talking healthcare, I'm there. So
cool. Yeah, everybody definitely check out the website. There's a ton of information on there too. And just keep updated. And really, I mean, like, aside from signing the petition and stuff like that, just have these conversations with people and like, let your ego go. If it means talking to somebody that you don't agree with, maybe on everything, that's okay. It's okay to do that. It won't hurt. I promise. I mean, yeah, some of these conversations will be uncomfortable, but that's what we need to do if we want to get things done. The whole point of politics is convincing people that your ideas are superior and winning them over to your side so that you can get things that you want done. So yeah, let's do that. Let's, put on our big girl panties and get out there and do it. It really shouldn't be that complicated. So thank you, Shareef, for coming on the show. Thank you for the work that you're doing.
Thank you.
We appreciate you. We appreciate all of the organizers who have been putting in so much time and effort. I don't think people understand how much effort you guys have put in and how much time it takes out of your personal lives. And so thank you for that. Yeah. I mean, I get it. I get it. There's a lot of people who don't get it, but I get it. So thank you for that. I know, it's a lot to do. And yeah, I really look forward to seeing how the UN thing turns out. So thanks for coming on. And yeah, we'll talk to everybody later.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, guys.
Thanks, Shareef.
Yep. Thank you. That was so fun. I can't find what the hell is happening to my computer? There it is.